of 2024. We are really excited that you are considering Yale, and we would be super excited to welcome you here on campus. And today we're going to be talking about some of the opportunities that are at Yale for studying the modern Middle East. My name is Jonathan Wurtzen. I am an associate professor in sociology, and I'm currently the director of undergraduate studies for the Modern Middle East Studies major. And we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the major, to talk about some of the common questions that students have that are considering the major. And it's really, today I am joined with Kristen Siebert, who's the program director for the Council on Middle East Studies, which is an umbrella organization that helps bring together faculty and students that work on the region, that are interested in the region. We do a ton of programming that's related to the region. And so we want to just take this time to give you some of the information that might help you as you're thinking about Yale and thinking about what it might look like to study the Middle East here. So Kristen, let's go ahead and have a little conversation about Middle East studies.
Okay. I would guess, I think whenever we have the Bulldog session in person, kind of one of the first things that happen is a student comes up and basically says, okay, you know, what's the major? Kind of what are the general requirements of the major? So sort of, could you give sort of an overall sense,
Right.
Number of courses and things like that?
Great. Yeah. So when you're starting in on your studies, you'll have, of course, for the general Yale requirements, a set of courses that you have to take. And then when you want to pursue a major, there are typically 12 or 13 courses that you need to take specifically for that major. For the Modern Middle East Studies major, it's 12. So some of those courses we count as introductory courses that you take as you're beginning to explore your interest. Another part of the course requirements is related to a distribution of ways that you would study the Middle East. And this includes courses that cover multiple countries in the region, multiple, I guess, sub-regions within the Middle East. So that would be a class that encompasses North Africa, a class that might encompass the Arab-speaking Middle East, the Ottoman Empire, Iran, or the broader Persian sphere. That also includes courses that have a period that extends earlier than 1750. So something that gives you a longer perspective on the development of the region. And then two other aspects of those courses. This is like the body of about 8 courses that you would take in the major. Of those 12 overall, includes multiple disciplines, so that you're not just taking political science classes, for instance, about the Middle East. You're taking a range of different disciplinary approaches. So this might be history, sociology, anthropology, an art class.
History, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of the goal there in just kind of the spirit of the way that we've designed the major is that you have a multidimensional understanding of the region. And then a couple of other requirements for the major, out of these 12 total courses, you need to also have an advanced proficiency in one of the languages of the region. And so some of the classes can count from that part of the requirement. And then finally, 2 last things is you need to take at least 2 advanced seminars. And we offer a ton of seminars on the region. That's the most common, I guess, type of course that we would have that covers the Middle East. And then finally, you do a senior essay requirement. And that can be 3 different options there. Some of the students will take a year-long credit that counts towards this requirement, in which they spend 2 semesters writing up a longer senior essay. There's other 1-semester essays, which are, students will also choose that option to have the flexibility in terms of their time.
Yeah. Regarding language, can you address a couple of things? One is just let everyone know what officially sort of are the languages that you can take towards the major. And then how does the major requirement compare to the overall language requirement at Yale? Because we require a higher level in general, I think then. So what are the languages that you take as part of the major?
Right. So this would be a distinctive in two ways. So one, the languages of the region that we teach at Yale and that we recognize for the major include Arabic, Modern Hebrew, Persian, and Turkish. So any four of those languages are applicable for the major, and we require you to get so beyond the what looks like or what the equivalent of 2 years of language study that you would be required more generally at Yale for this area studies focus, which again the emphasis is here is your deepening knowledge of the region, and this is a very critical and essential part of that is your proficiency in one of the languages of the region. So we require you to get to an advanced level, which is basically a 5th semester of study as a minimum. So you would take 2 years coming into Yale. I mean, either taking those courses at Yale, or you might test in to that level coming in from other programs that you might have taken, or some students will also gain that advance to that higher level through studying abroad in an intensive language program. So there's multiple ways you can get there, but you do need to reach that advanced proficiency.
Yeah. And actually something that would be, I want us to also emphasize, because this is really a perk of a place like Yale, is the DILS program, the Directed Independent Language Study Program. So in addition to, so the way to fulfill the language requirement for the major is just as Jonathan said, through those 4 languages that he discussed and through sort of the official semester-long courses that you would take at Yale. But for lesser taught languages that don't belong to a department or are not able, you can't take them from like a first semester through an advance. There's something called Directed Independent Language Study. And you could take, for example, you could take,
Well, we've had students that have taken Kurdish, for example,
Kurdish
offered at Yale,
or Lebanese, or you can take any of the sort of the regional
Tunisian dialect,
Tunisian dialects or Egyptian, or and so you apply. It's essentially you apply to take it, and if you are sort of admitted into this like not really a program, but are admitted for a semester, you could be taking Tunisian or Egyptian essentially with a tutor. So, for a couple of hours, a couple of times a week, where you would focus in on sort of whatever area of interest for you. If you're somebody who's focusing, maybe you're very interested in sociology or history, you could focus kind of the language that way. But the idea is you already have a foundation in Arabic and in MSA, and then you want to go into sort of regional dialects. So those kinds of opportunities exist as well, which is a lot of students take advantage of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think maybe just to add into that one on this line is that we have an intensive Arabic program that is offered, a Yale-sponsored program that's offered in the summer in Rabat, Morocco. And we have students that frequently will access intensive language programs in the region, both I guess the largest number are accessing programs having to do with learning modern standard Arabic. So they'll take classes in Jordan in addition to Morocco, but there are some other opportunities for the other languages too.
Yeah, and if you take the Yale program, what's pretty amazing is you could take the first 2 semesters, let's say as a freshman, or if you started as a sophomore, but you would take the first 2 semesters at Yale, and then you would do the intensive 3rd and 4th semester in Morocco as part of the Yale program, and then you come back as a sophomore and you're already advanced.
Right.
So that it's and you were earning full Yale credit towards your graduation. So
and maybe just to put in another point there is that Yale has financial aid that is available for those summer international study, like the language program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the ISA, and if you are a student who comes to Yale and receives financial aid, you automatically have a financial aid package for 1 summer. And it's very attractive to use for a study abroad program. And regarding study abroad, so the Yale program, the Yale study abroad that we offer is Yale credits. So that's an easy way to bring back credit towards the major. But if students go on non-Yale programs, are they also allowed to use either language or content course credit towards the major?
Absolutely. One of the things in the Middle East Studies major that we strongly encourage and do everything in our power to help facilitate is for you to study abroad in the region, either in the summer or during the academic year. This is obviously, if you're learning about the Middle East, the best way you can do that is to be there on the ground, immersed in the culture, and taking academic courses. And so we frequently have students that pursue those opportunities, and the director of undergraduate studies, this is the position that I have right now, we talk together, we talk about the course of study is, and then we facilitate how those credits transfer back in. There are other majors that have restrictions on what can apply to fulfilling their major requirements. And in this respect, we fully support and encourage and facilitate you taking those credits abroad and bringing them back, and those counting towards the major.
Yeah. And actually, I want to add too, because study abroad, we do highly encourage study abroad. But I would say also at Yale, there's pretty generous funding overall for your entire time at Yale. So in addition to the ISA that we mentioned, which is related to financial aid, there are also opportunities to do internships or to do research. You know, a lot of students will go abroad, let's say as rising seniors, the summer before senior year, to do research as part of their senior thesis. But even between sophomore and junior year, maybe they do an internship. And students who are doing the Middle East, you know, the modern Middle East studies major will do internships or research projects or volunteer programs in the region, in the Middle East region, you know, and while they're not earning credit officially towards the major, it's obviously enhancing their experience at Yale. It's enhancing their, you know, their time in the major, and we highly encourage that. And there is a lot of funding at Yale. And so what I would say is if you come to Yale, by all means, seek us out early on, and we can advise you about how you know, what pots of money you need to look for. But every summer there's quite a bit of funding for fellowships, for study abroad, for research. So you want to take advantage of that, you know, while you're here.
Yeah, I mean, just even another example of that is for summer language study, in addition to this award, the Macmillan Center, which is the site on campus that sort of encompasses all of our international studies, international focus, provides generous funding of up to $7,500 for you to do intensive language study over the summer. So there's really a vast amount of support that is put in place to help you study a place like the Middle East, that kind of international focus.
Yeah. Can people double major, modern Middle East studies major with something else?
I highly encourage a double major. I think the modern Middle East degree is a perfect fit to be paired with another major. So in some areas, the global studies, for instance, is a very natural and clear fit between the kind of degree that works really well with modern Middle East studies. Other students have done this with other social science degrees, with political science, history would be another option that people have done before. There's really not a limit on that. I think, you know, art history has been another one that has been the case for. We have very flexible requirements, and when you're doing a double major, at Yale, you're allowed to, so I mentioned you need 12 credits to graduate with a modern Middle East studies degree. Of those 12s, you can share 2 of those courses with another major. So I have students that are doing political science. They take international relations with the Middle East. They take another class on Middle East politics. And those are 2 classes that are going to count for political science and for modern Middle East studies. So there's really, it's very much, it's structured as a major to fit with in doing a double major. As the program, the director of undergraduate studies, myself, whoever is in that role, is we're oriented towards trying to help you facilitate doing a double major. And from the other side, like why, you know, if you're thinking about another major and you're like curious about Middle East studies, why do a double major with political science? Why do a double major with economics, for instance, or another degree? I think when I'm advising students is what's really powerful about having, when you're sending your resume out, having it say Yale University Bachelor of Arts. At the top level of your resume, it says Bachelor of Arts in X and Bachelor of Arts in Modern Middle East Studies. The person who's looking at your file doesn't have to dig way down and say, oh, they are advanced proficiency in Arabic or in Persian or in Turkish or in Hebrew. they know from the beginning that you have an area of expertise. And I think a lot of times the students are, you before you know it, you've already completed a lot of the requirements. And especially if you are interested in the region, if you're and if you've taken the languages, then you're almost there. So I strongly encourage double majoring.
Yeah, and actually, just as a reminder, we can students can use up to 3 language credits towards the major
Right.
itself. Yeah.
Yes, that was something, as we're talking about those 12 credits, if you start in on Arabic and you take 4 semesters, 5 semesters beyond that, you can use up to 3 of those credits. So again, all of that language preparation is really being counted as progress towards the major. It's really getting you there.
Yeah. So if you get to the L5, which a lot of students really do, because, you know, to be serious about a language, you want to go to the advanced level. Once you're there, it seems, you know, you're almost there with
Yeah,
the major. You know, you're pretty far along. Let's say. I
you
mean,
might as well do it. Yeah.
you might as well do it. So the other thing I know that people always want to know is, so what do I do with a major like this? So
Yeah.
where do our students go? What kinds of things do you think our students do?
Right. So we have students that go in a lot of different directions. A lot of students are moving on into they'll work for a think tank, for instance. Some have gone into governmental work. Um, a lot of students use this immediately. Like, what do they do right after completing the major? A very high number of students go on into doing a Fulbright year. I've had students that have gone into Peace Corps after graduation. Have students that have gone into year or 2 year long intensive, further intensive language study through the CASA program, which is for Arabic, and through some other fellowships that support that. So there's really a range of different opportunities or different ways that people are using that major as they move on from Yale. But it really adds you know, a critical, it signals a critical skill set if you're looking at both governmental, non-governmental. If it's consulting work, that's another avenue that students that have Middle East expertise, you know, when they're interviewing for a consulting job, and you know the Middle East, you know Arabic, you know another one of the languages, it's really also something that makes you stand out in that job search too. So that, you know, end up doing consulting in the region.
Yeah, no, I hear that all the time. In particular around, I think students that are interested in private sector work don't always, may not appreciate how valuable a regional expertise with a deep language knowledge is. But I hear all the time from people in private sector how there's a lot you can learn on the job, but the language and the regional expertise is not something you can learn on the job.
Right. Yeah, they can't.
And
a
so
3 week intensive program.
they always find people with sort of an economics or business background alone, you know, is maybe less interesting than having that other expertise. And I think students don't appreciate that enough, about how attractive you are by having that and how many doors it can really open. So
Right.
and there's no limit to what you can go into with the modern Middle East studies. You know, you're not in sort of a track. You know, you really can do
It's
just
really flexible.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Is there anything else that you think, you know, we're missing around the major itself?
I think maybe to just talk about, maybe one more thing is about the senior essay. So I think with that, this is down the line quite a bit if you're coming in as a freshman, but you can be thinking about I think it's an exciting prospect looking towards the future, about doing a research project that really involves, in this major, would involve real interaction with sources that are from primary sources that are in the languages of the region. We have students that we have some funding to help students doing the 2-semester option facilitate them doing field work in the region. So this could be, you know, we've had students that have worked in Lebanon. Other students have completed projects on different aspects of the post-2003 invasion of Iraq. Students that have worked on gender and public health in the Islamic Republic and Iran. Students that look at British colonial policies in Jordan. There's a really wide range that gets expressed in those senior essays. And so it really is a great final kind of capstone to your training in the Middle East. region in a way that also kind of, as you are applying for jobs, you have a piece of scholarship that can demonstrate your skills there. And I think the other, in talking about the way that those senior essays come out, it makes me also want to emphasize that this is a very small major, and the advantage of that is that you get a lot of more direct attention. You have, there's a lot more flexibility. There's a lot of interactions that you have with faculty that are really, I think, an advantage of this kind of major, rather as opposed to some of the much larger majors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I would actually just like to add, because the major is under the umbrella of the Council on Middle East Studies, that the council itself is a place to take advantage of while you're,
Right.
while you're in the major, even if you're not in the major. But the council sponsors, seminar series throughout the year, conferences. There's a lot of different, both academic and cultural activities that we oversee, that we very much want our students to be a part of, and that you can be a part of. And you could be coming by the center almost every week to participate in some kind of academic or cultural activity if that was of interest to you. And that's a way of not only just sort of expanding your mind around certain subject matter, but getting to know other faculty, getting to know people in the council. And those are the kinds of things that one conversation leads to another. So they're always, there's good opportunities within the council itself.
Absolutely. I think, the community, in terms of, the broader environment of how the Middle East is studied and is interacted with at Yale, we have a very large community. There's over 40 faculty that work on something related to the region directly, and then a kind of wider community for whom this is a region that their research overlaps in. We have a lot of cultural programming, from films to a lot of outreach events. We bring in a huge number of guest speakers that come in to give talks on the region from a whole variety of different perspectives.
Yeah.
We have a very active community on campus of students from the region. There's a strong push to have a Middle East cultural house created. They've already started programming. They're very active. In addition to other groups from Muslim Students Association, the Arab Students Association, very active, the Slifka Center for Jewish Life on campus, which also backs a lot of research in the region.
Yeah.
So there's really a very vibrant community that is focused on this, and it's a great place to have that kind of support and excitement, encouragement if you're interested in the Middle East.
Yeah. Great. Well,
it's really great to be able to have a chance to reach out to you as an incoming class. And we are going to be here when you get to Yale, or if you have any questions in the meantime, you can reach out to us. If all of this information is available at our website at cmes.macmillan, macmillan.yale.edu. And on that website, you can click on academics, and there's a specific page that's dedicated to the undergraduate major, and has a lot of the Q&A with a lot of these questions and answers are available there. And you can feel free to reach out to us directly by email there. So really appreciate this.
Yeah, we hope to welcome you this fall.